on this week's episode of Tides of Lore.
She's just like, it's crazy, I don't pay you to talk.
You do kind of suck, dude.
He may not be a Worgen, but he needs anger management.
You're gonna hit like a wet noodle without your armor, dude.
As that happens, the world erupted in an unseen fire.
Varian's pretty cool, man.
Whatever force orchestrating this horror was no mere killer.
Is Varian a drunk?
You'd only scare off any good game with that stomping of yours.
She's like basically a Jedi, dude.
Their coordination was unlike anything that the Night Elves had seen, even since the Third War.
Every episode of Tides of Lore is made possible by our amazing supporters. Thank you so much to Xander Harris, Jake Hilpert, Pewter City Gym Leader, Arulianus, The Away Fan, Insulin FTW, Bubba BSE, Arez Jerry, Watto21, and Mo. Your guys' support truly means the world to us, and if you guys would like to join the Tide, check us out on YouTube or Patreon. Hello everybody and welcome back to the 47th episode of Tides of Lore. My name is Robert Silva. I am one half of your host team, joined as always by Tim the Hunter.
Why do you gotta...
How you doing this week, Tim?
Why do you gotta let everyone know that I died like that, dude? Yeah, I'm a hunter now.
I just wasn't expecting to see a hunter in the room.
Hunter, but this hunter is amazing. But why am I a hunter? Well, mage died. I was in the Charred Vale. I shouldn't have been there. You know, half of the Charred Vale, it's like level 24. The other half is like level 28. I was 24. I was killing some of the 28s. I ran out of mana. One rooted me, then two more pulled, and yeah. So I'm a hunter now. But level 23, got Wing Blade, got a Venom Strike. I'm huge, dude. Fully engineered out. I feel the best I've ever felt. So I'm super excited. I should stream it. I need to stream more. I do.
Please.
I know. Well, I felt bad.
And you've had such crazy things from what you've been telling me about, too.
Every dungeon I go
Well,
in.
not only did you miss the death of the mage, but everything else that's been happening this run has been insane. I'm like, God, I wish I had that footage.
Yeah, RFC, 3 people died. And then last night in my Wailing Caverns, everyone died but me. And I swear it's not me causing the issues, man. In Wailing Caverns, this fucking stupid druid tank, or he might have been a warrior, I forget. But you know the Druid of the Fang or Druid of the Claw, whatever they are.
Yep.
In Wailing Caverns.
Yep.
Well, they can heal, they can shapeshift, they could do pretty much everything, right? Well, he pulled like fucking 5 of them and one of those moss creepers, and we couldn't kill anything because they were healing each other, dude. Like, and so the tank died. I ran after that. After the tank died, I ran. I jumped off a cliff, and everyone else died.
Did you? How's your heart beating as you were watching that Hearthstone tick down, waiting for those guys to come running around the corner for you?
One more second, and he would hit me and stop the heart.
No way.
And then RFC. At the end, you know, the boss, you kill him at the bottom and then you like run up the side of a cliff in RFC. Well, we were going up the side of the cliff and he just pulled like 3 groups, dude. And so, yeah, I did the same thing. I jumped off the cliff and I hearthed. after the tank died, not before. Like I would help the group. The tank went down. I was like, okay, this is not, no one's going to.
You're like, Boris, go get him.
We're at.
Oh.
But yeah.
I see Boris's successor.
At 4. But yeah,
obviously.
It's been a great journey. I'll stream it.
It sounds crazy, yeah. I have been up to nothing. I mean, I want to say I'm sorry, guys, because I have not been posting shorts. I have not been posting on socials. I barely got the episode out on time. I mean, I didn't even get it out on time. I got it out late that day.
You've been sleeping, dude.
Because I've been getting fucking teabagged by work, Tim. All right, yeah, I've been getting fucking teabagged.
You've been sleeping.
I don't want to be. I don't want to do. I'm not going. I know that there's some people out there who work some crazy shifts and some shit like that, but I was not built to work, 6 shifts a week, 60 hours, fucking, and yeah. I was just been tired. I've been doing that. I've been very, very occasionally playing Ready or Not, which, if you guys don't know, is like this tactical co-op shooter where you play as like a SWAT team and you try and stop bad guys. And I should say, oh my god, viewer discretion advised. Like I know that we talk about some pretty intense topics on here sometimes. We talk about some pretty intense topics just in the world or whatever, but that game is so visceral in its violence. It is rather I mean, I think it's like a work of art and how detailed it is in that regard, but it is intense. So yeah, viewer discretion advised, but also check out Ready or Not if you like tactical shooters. It is every bit as amazing as I was promised it would be. But outside of that, been playing Legion Remix, been playing the Mage, not as much as I would have liked to be. I got that up to 70, I think I'm at. I think I hit that brick wall of item level, and I'm like, I'll deal with this later. But I've been having fun with that. It's just reminded me that Legion is 100% the best modern expansion that World of Warcraft has ever had. And there's no doubt about it. Like, especially with Skywriting, bro, it's like, wow, this is the stories that I thought were just, like incredible. This is the art, these like all these tier sets, everything from Legion. Top tier.
You
Love
don't.
that shit. I've been eating it up.
You don't remember the time gating with Suramar specifically.
I don't remember. Oh, I do remember.
Yeah,
the
well, you don't
time
remember
gating.
it now because there is no time gating for Legion. Well, there's some, but not in the way that.
I'm not even against it though. I mean, I've always been the person to say that, you know what, I think that time gating is somewhat necessary because the truth is that modern World of Warcraft players will just play things into oblivion, grind it to max, and then sit there and whine that there's nothing to do. So, you know, go outside, touch some grass, it'll be all right. But I do remember that. Wasn't it like 9 weeks of time gating or some shit like that too? I remember it was a pretty long time. But also, it built up this anticipation for when then I would go and I would reclaim fucking Suramar and do the Nighthold stuff, and it felt genuinely like I was doing this assault on Thelrisra. What the fuck is her name? Thelrisra? I cannot. But the Nighthold, Gul'dan, all that shit finally coming to its climax. But yeah, I've been enjoying Legion Remix. Tim, are you maxed on Legion?
Oh
Remix
yeah,
now?
yeah.
I have to imagine. Yeah, I have to imagine.
We got all the mounts. We got the shoulders, her satyr's shoulders. Yeah, we did the thing.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we're waiting for Broken Shore to unlock, and then Argus to get some more stuff going on that. For the most part, I'm gonna be just once I hit my max level on this character to just earn more bronze. I'm just gonna hop over to a new character, do some more order hall stuff. I'm thinking a goblin rogue because we were talking about goblins so much at the start of this that I was like, I need a goblin, you know. And I think rogues are the only class that really fits the roleplay of a goblin.
I like mage too, just because I like a goblin that can use its mind.
A mind goblin, dare I say?
Sorry, we can keep going.
Okay. But yeah, that's all that's been going on with us this last week. Last week in the podcast, we ended up discussing some more of the Wolfheart novel. We actually didn't get quite as far into the book as I was really expecting that we would. But we discussed Velen arriving in Darnassus with all the rest of these emissaries, them having this big summit eventually after this banquet, Varian Wrynn showing up, shitting on Genn at every opportunity that he can, even when Genn's like, please, you have to, we're trying to say sorry, and he's like, eat shit, dog. Dog is a slur too, not as like a...
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. But, and then we end up following some of Jarod's Shadowsong, trying to figure out about some of these bodies, telling Chandra's Feathermoon about it. The Highborn are still continuing to die. And there is, of course, the conflict over in Ashenvale beginning to ramp up more and more as there is a bit of a full-scale assault over on Commander Haldris and the rest of the Sentinels with proto-dragons, red proto-dragons coming, which I thought was fascinating. Tim, you got anything you want to say about last week before we hop over?
No, I remember us talking about Jarod a couple episodes back, and I'm surprised I didn't remember him. He's Maiev brother, and
that is true.
I was just doing, I forget what I was doing, something in Legion, and you see him. And I know this is a total tangent, but it's just cool to do the episode, and then I actually learn who these people are, and I'm like, oh, Jarod Shadowsong, Maev's brother, yeah. It's just, I don't know, it's cool. I like it.
I mean, Legion is a culmination of a lot of those stories that come from War of the Ancients all the way into the Cataclysm and now into Legion remix, but at that point just Legion, right? So I mean that's part of the reason why I really like Legion. But yeah, Jarod Shadowsong, former leader of the like Night Elf resistance army against the demons during the War of the Ancients, and yeah, brother to Maiev Shadowsong, former warden of Illidan Stormrage.
Yeah, and you do the because Legion remix, you do a lot of Night Elf stuff out in Val'sharah, and I was tying it all together with the previous
and
episodes
Blackroot
that we were doing. Yeah, Blackroot Gold too. Yeah, it's just cool.
Yep, and I mean that's actually something that I've been doing on my character as well. As I've been trying to, because I mean you level so fast, right? Like you can basically only do 1 or 2 zones before you're really gonna hit max level. So I've been trying to like I'm gonna stick to doing Azuna on my mage and then go to Suramar and do that quest line. And then from there, when I do the rogue, I'm going to try to do, I don't know, something else. Probably more pertaining to the rogue if I can. Which I'm trying to think what would be most rogue-like. And I still think it would be like Suramar, but even then I'm like, I don't know, maybe a Stormheim. Go battle with some...
That's a warrior.
Some undead Rykul or whatever. That is true. That's such warrior zone too.
Yeah.
The Halls of Valor. The literal warrior fucking hall, so. But yeah, that's what we discussed last week. And last week... you guys had a couple of comments for us. I'm going to highlight one real quick here, and then we'll hop over to Tim. So, over on Spotify, we have Tacnic saying, longtime listener, first-time caller, pumped that you're finding success with the podcast. Today's episode was nice to see Jarod Shadowsong is back in the story. Looking forward to hearing more about what he's been up to since the War of the Ancients. I'm reading the War of the Ancients trilogy, and I think it would be an awesome topic to revisit. I'm still trying to figure out where in the timeline Ronan, Brox, and Crassus are from. Anyways, you guys are legends. Keep killing it both in life and in game.
That's funny. We're just talking about Jarod, and here we are again.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you read those books, you gain an appreciation for his character a lot. Like, you really see just how, not even intricate of a character is, but he's like this reliable stone. Like, through all the horrors of the War of the Ancients. And it is just like every other chapter, they're like, and then there was burning oil. And then the fucking mist ate them alive. And then fucking they watched everybody. Like, it's pretty brutal through the entire time. And through all of it, Jared's just like, we'll go west. We'll regroup. We'll do this. And you're just like, damn, he's on top. Even as all these nobles and rich people are like, I'm panicking. I'm panicking. He's like, no, there's no point in panicking. But I don't know if we're really going to get too much more about what he's been up to outside of he's just been married. He's been living the good life. He's been living that Geralt of Rivia with Yennefer on a bench in Toussaint life.
Does he have a kid?
I don't think so. And I think that his wife, I could be wrong, but I think she kind of mentions that. She's like, I'm sorry that we like never had children, so you're going to be like alone in the world again when I die. Which is part of the reason why she takes him back to Darnassus. But I could be wrong on that, and who knows? Blizzard could be like, he actually had 13 bastard children. He was really out there slanging the wang.
You'll never know.
Yeah. There's a Game of Thrones plotline out of nowhere. But also, the timeline where Ronan, Brox, and Crassus are snapped up from, I believe, is right after... it would have to be right after the Third War. So just after the first invasion by the Burning Legion, after they plant Teldrassil, because Nozdormu still is aware of everything going on, and as you might have noticed by the time of the War of the Ancients trilogy, Nozdormu's gone missing. So it would have to be somewhere between then and us eventually meeting up with the Bronze Dragons and opening the Caverns of Time in TBC and beginning to start the, like, where is Nozdormu questline. So yeah, somewhere around there, just after the Third War with the Scourge and the Burning Legion, Arthas putting on the helm and all that. So right around then. But thank you for your comment, and I really appreciate it. To continue on, Tim, what comment did you want to highlight this week?
Oh, man. I don't know, man. The comments, they were supportive, but y'all need to do better. Rob's putting his heart and soul in this, and I like the uplifting comments, but I need something I need to dig my teeth into and that we can discuss. And there was nothing on the YouTube channel this week to discuss. So please, if you're listening to this, think right. Give us something to talk about. I love the uplifting comments, though. I don't want to take away from it. So thank you guys. But give me something with a little more meat and potatoes. Something I can go after. Something we can have some talking points.
Well, you heard it here first. There's been a protest, and You're only getting one comment today. Tim's calling. He's calling upon you to give us a bit more juicy comments so that we can really respond to you guys, because that's what this section's for, so we can have a nice conversation with you. So we'll see you guys next week with where I'm assuming you're going to have some amazing comments. We'll assume this is a mulligan. But with all that out of the way, it's time to move into our episode. Hey, Tim. Did you know that Tides of Lore is a Patreon now?
Oh yeah? What do I get if I throw some support on Patreon?
You'll get ad-free episodes, a member shout-out, live stream access, and exclusive VODs, the full package.
So basically, skip the ads, get your name in the show, and help us keep telling Warcraft stories?
Exactly. Join the Tide at patreon.com/tidesoflore. So, last time, if you remember, Jarod Shadowsong steps in this trap that he says essentially feels like he's dying. Like it's the worst experience that he's ever had until he feels a human hand free him from this trap and just tell him like, I didn't know it was there. I'm sorry, and runs away. And then eventually he's recovered by the Wardens and his sister, Maiev Shadowsong, which is where we come back into him, where we come back to his story, where he awakes in his sister's quarters, his body aching, but he is alive as Maiev
None can escape my fury.
is crouching beside him, offering him a cup of wine. And she's like, you ran into a highborn trap. And she's just like, you know, some people would have died from that. And he, again, is just like, I genuinely thought that I did. And she's like, ha, well, you built different. What can I say? You got that Shadowsong DNA. And Jarod begins to explain. He's like, yeah, Malfurion and Tyrande wanted me to help you investigate the highborn murders. And Maiev's just like, cool, yeah, I'm down. Just like this first corpse that we found, someone is very dedicated to, you know, killing these people. But when you really think about it, who wouldn't want the highborn dead? She's
You kind of suck, dude.
But with that, she's like, all right, come on, let's go investigate. So they return to the site of Jared's near death, joined by Neva, Maiev's second in command. And as they're looking around, they examine and they find strands of fur embedded in the bark. And they're like, I wonder who could have left that. And Maiev's like, the Worgen, obviously. And Jared's like, I don't know, because like, I think it was a Worgen that ended up freeing me from this trap before apologizing and disappearing. And with that, Maiev and Neva look at each other and they're like, well, we're going to go pay the wolves a visit. So they begin rushing off towards the wolf den. And as all three of them move stealthily towards where they know the Worgen hunt near the edge of Darnassus, Jared's nerves sharpen as if he's back during those old wars all over again. And that's when these first two hulking lupine forms emerge from the shadows, followed by nearly a dozen more as this unease begins to wash over them, as these Worgens completely surround them, towering over them, their claws gleaming in this dim light. When one of them comes to approach and asks, come to spy on us again, he asks Maiev. And Maev's just like, we're here on call for the high priestess, what can I say? And the Worgen are just like, the king's gonna speak with your high priestess and archdruid, I promise you that. And she's like, yeah, that's what you said last time, but we found some fur at the scene of the crime last time, so we thought maybe we'd come around here and see if you guys maybe know what's been going on about that. And the Worgen are just like, there are lots of animals in the forest, I don't know what to tell you. And Jarod steps forward and he's like, no, I don't know, I don't think that this creature attacked me, they think that they pulled me free. And with that, Jared's like scanning over them when he sees this Worgen leader that's been talking to them begin to eye him thoughtfully, and he says, so a Worgen rescues you and is still called a monster for it. And Maiev begins pressing for more answers as the leader cuts her as she goes to be like, what's going on here? And the leader's just like, if you wish to question us, you know, come to us. Sneaking in here is dangerous. Some of these young Worgen, they might just rip you up. They might not even think about it before doing it. So be careful. And they melt back into the trees, disappearing into the shadows. And Maiev is just calm. Jarod kind of shakily a little bit was just like, that was close. And she's like, we were never in danger, as her and Neva whip out their glaives. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I think you're good, Maiev, but like 14 Worgen surrounding you at once, you think you could take them with your glaive? I don't know.
He's pretty badass, dude. And she's got a friend, too?
Action.
She's got a friend?
Yeah, she's got an underling.
I mean,
a mini-me.
She's like basically a Jedi, dude. I think she could do it.
I'm still questioning, is Maiev supposed to be like magical? Because, like, in Warcraft 3, she uses magic. But, like,
Do wardens
obviously.
get, like, spell put on them or anything? Or?
Well, in Warcraft 3, they can, like, teleport, right? So, or at least Maiev can. I don't know. It's weird. But also, that's just because she's a hero unit. So maybe they're just like, she needs hero abilities. So they gave her some. But that is where we cut over to Ashenvale. Commander Haldrissa opening the gates and leading a mounted column of Sentinels supported by foot soldiers off into the morning mist. After the attack the previous night, they know that they had just vanished back into the woods, and not trying to mistake the stillness for safety, she is trying to see if this counter assault can be productive, and whatever leader is currently leading this hunt against the Sentinels, knowing that they are probably some lieutenant of this new war chief, Garrosh Hellscream. And as they patrol out through this tree line, they find only scattered tracks, fading scents of orcs, and the signs of only those an enemy that had withdrawn deliberately. As Danaea, Haldrissa's second in command, comes up and is just like, we should have ridden out last night. Like, we shouldn't have waited at all. And Haldrissa, like, thinks about it for a second, ignoring her. She's just like, it's crazy, I don't pay you to talk. As she's already trying to rework her strategy, beginning to ponder, like, well, if this is the case, is there a route to get to one of our other Sentinel outposts of Silverwing across this river, and could be this, like, critical defensive bastion that would, make sure that the alliances hold on this portion of Ashenvale would remain strong. And she's like, I didn't see any smoke in that direction, so that does give me hope. So she's just like, all right, Danaea, we're dividing the force in half. Half of you are going to stay here. The rest of us, we're riding to Silverwing, and we move immediately. So within the hour, Danaea has all these troops organized. They begin scouting the roads ahead, but the enemy's trail was deliberately confusing, going off in conflicting directions designed to slow any pursuit, as this Horde commander was clearly waging some kind of different war, one of misdirection and relentless pressure. Haldrissa just thinking, damn, I never knew that the orcs were pussy like that. As much as, they talk about honor this, honor that, where's my clean fight? And I just gotta say, I mean, talk your shit for sure, but, like, you can't hate the player, hate the game.
I mean, there's multiple Makaras that orcs don't follow through with tradition either, right? So I don't know if they always follow.
But yes, that is where far away in Darnassus you have Varian, Wrynn.
Behold the armies of Stormwind.
Sitting alone, drowning in guilt. Last we checked in, his son was like, fuck you, Dad. I'm going to go with Uncle Velen and start studying the light. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you want me to go to some Ivy League. I'm not doing it. So he's in his quarters just turning up. He is like, bring me more wine, spirits. Like, honestly, I wish I had some stronger shit. This elven wine, it takes too much of it to get drunk. But he's had his guards go out, and he's like, go get me some more alcohol. As he looks at the empty bedchamber across from his chair, he thinks about all of his pasts, all his bitter past that has led him to this moment. The arena, his father's death, Tiffin's death, and Onyxia's deception and kidnapping of Anduin. And through the depths of all of this despair, he begins wondering if it would have been better if he had just died a child during the first invasion of Stormwind back during the First War. And knocking him from his reverie is a knock at the door, as he's like, come on, if you got more wine, bring it in. I said bring the wine in. I didn't tell you to knock on the door. I said bring wine. As Malfurion walks in, he's like, I ain't got no wine. And Varian just growls. He's like, Malfurion, if you ain't got no wine, I need you to leave. Like, for real, I need you to leave right now. I don't want to talk to nobody. And Malfurion is just like, hey, keep it above 50 with you, man. Anduin wouldn't want you like this, and your wife wouldn't either. As Varian's eyes turn into a dangerous frown and scowl, he just says, leave, Archdruid. Undeterred, Malfurion, probably one of the few figures in the world that realistically stands no worry in the presence of somebody like Varian, is just like, well, man, how about I offer you an alternative? If you don't want to talk, perhaps we can do some action. I know you're a man of action. Let's go hunting. And Varian's just like, you, a druid, want to go hunting. And Malfurion's just like, yeah, the hunt is part of nature. Like, I don't get mad at the wolf for eating and feeding its children. And, as long as you honor nature and you treat respect to your kill, It's just part of the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And Varian just gives a bitter laugh, and he's like, fine, better than rotting here with no bottles. So he grabs his bow and his quiver, and he tells his servants, who just barely arrived back with more alcohol, he's like, leave it inside, we're going for a walk. He's like, get me my car keys.
Is Varian a drunk?
Fuck. He is right now. But no, they go off into the forest as they begin making their way into this secluded glaive. Malfurion leans his staff against a tree, and Varian's like, you're gonna use the stick? And he's like, nah, I don't need to do that. He turns into a cat-like form. It's hard to say it's a cat-like form because it also has antlers because it's Malfurion, but it's still just a concept. But yes, he turns into this cat-like panther form, and he's like, I don't need to do that. I can hunt like this. And he's like, cool. All right, well, Varian says that you still need a lot of luck to do better than that, and with that, the cat gives a low, amused rumble, and they both begin bounding off into different portions of the undergrowth. As Varian's old gladiatorial instincts begin to wake up within him, the smell of deer fills his nostrils, and he moves through the woods with a practiced silence, knocking an arrow as he's getting ready to stalk his prey. And for the first time since Anduin's departure, the tightness in his chest begins to ease, and he feels just a little bit alive. And that's when suddenly a stag appears in front of him, charging forward. Varian dodges aside, and when he does, he comes face to face with another hunter, a Worgen, with its fur bristling and its eyes gleaming in the dawn light. And before he can even say anything, a second Worgen just pops out of the trees, his fur a stark white streaked with dark markings at the mane, and his blue eyes burning with hatred as he snarls, Varian Wrynn. The king gripping onto his bow, muscles coiling, and behind this white-furred Worgen face came nearly a dozen other Worgens, each deferring to their leader, as this hunt had now become something far more dangerous. This white wolfen form shifting out mid-sentence, saying, you've got a lot of gall coming here, revealing King Genn Greymane.
Our favorite.
What is your favorite thing about Genn?
His loyalty.
His compassion for his people.
Yeah. He's a man of the people.
Yeah. As Varian has his bow still pulled up, Genn just says, go ahead and fire. You've already struck me through the heart with your vote. My people will suffer already. As Varian lowers his bow in contempt, he just says that I wouldn't even waste an arrow on you. Bad enough, you've already ruined my hunt. As Genn laughs at him, he's like, what the f are you talking about? We always hunt here. You are near our camp, and you know this. And Varian's just like, fucking Malfurion Stormrage, man. As he realized that he didn't know this, but someone who lived here definitely did. As this, he's like, where are you, Archdruid? Do you think this is funny? Malfurion steps into the open view, and he says that the Worgen have long hunted here. I think I forgot to mention it. My bad, dog. Varian just sneers that the place is too crowded and that he's lost his taste for hunting. And Genn just sneers back that, good, you'd only scare off any good game with that stomping of yours.
Savage.
So Malfurion just steps up and he's like, enough. These words aren't going to prove anything. Perhaps it's time to actually settle something. Let's settle this through some skill rather than shouting. And Genn's just like, you're only trying to do this so that we might look at each other differently. Like, this is not, you're not slick, man. And he's like, then you have nothing to fear. You just have to win then. And Genn's lips curls and he's like, we don't hunt for sport. And with that, off into the forest with the rest of his pack, followed silently like ghosts beneath the trees. As Varian watches him vanish, conflicted, Malfurion gestures to another stretch of the wood, saying that, hey, you know, if you still want to hunt, I think there's some good game that way. And Varian hesitates for just a moment before sprinting after the Worgen. So the last of these Alliance delegates are departing. Tyrande Whisperwind,
Draw forth the moon.
weary but resolute. She had spent the entire day forging promises, maneuvering between factions, trying to secure aid for Ashenvale. Now that she knows that there is a war coming, a bunch of these other faction leaders now need to go back to their lands to secure their own borders because Garrosh Hellscream is on the warpath. That is what the Alliance knows. But with her persistence, she has won military support from some of the kingdoms, supplies from others, and in those few hours after learning about Ashenvale, she gained more progress than any amount of the months of formal diplomacy that had come before this. And still, as she drinks on a simple cup of water, a quiet whisper doubts in her mind, will it be enough? Will this be enough to stop the storm gathering over Ashenvale? As General Chandris makes her way into the chamber, Tyrande says report, and she just says, swift response fleet, 6 ships, fully stocked, ready to go. Sentinels on mounds, supplies. They are ready to set sail by midday tomorrow. And Tyrande like feels a swelling of pride because Chandris had been the one to come up with this idea. She's like, hey, Tyrande, I think we should have a bunch of ships, or at the very least we should have like a regiment of soldiers and ships and supplies ready to go, because this Garrosh Hellscream guy that's been taken over is kind of fucking loony. So we should be ready in case there's some sort of crisis. And Tyrande's like, that's probably a good idea. So they've always had these ships, like constantly had fresh stocks of food, constantly had soldiers cycled out and ready to go at 24/7 all the time. And now it is time. So swelling with pride, seeing this precaution come to fruition, Tyrande credits Chandra saying that you put this together for exactly this day, and Chandra's credits her back saying that she had only followed your lead. You said that we needed to be ready, not reactive, and I created just that for you. And Tyrande tells her, she's like, yep, we got reinforcements from all the Alliance. They're en route. The priestess and the general stand side by side, and Chandra's promise is that the Horde will rue their ambition, and Tyrande simply murmurs to herself, perhaps, as she is unsettled by a premonition that she couldn't dismiss, that they know their strength, but the truth is that they still needed Varian Wrynn to lead them in this time. But with that, she makes her own decision. She's like, well, if faith is the start of all things, I have faith I'm going to go put down this little skirmish in Ashenvale. So, Chandris, I'm coming with you. I'm going to Ashenvale too. You're going, I'm going. So, that's what's happening. Meanwhile, back in this darkened forest, these 2 Worgen guards intercept Varian. Their growls alerting Genn, who snarls back at him saying, so you've come to prove yourself my better after all. And Varian just says, I'll always be your better. As Genn laughs and he begins boasting about how he has senses that are so heightened that he couldn't even describe them to Varian, but as he does, he looks over and he sees this golden aura around Varian, marking him in a way that even Genn didn't quite understand. And he's like, he actually mentions it. He's like, I think the first time that I had ever seen you, I could see this golden aura around you. And you know what? I'm pretty sure it's the ancient wolf god Goldrin basically imbuing you with power or selecting you as his champion. And he's just like, but seeing how much of a fucking snob and a loser you are, I don't know how true that could be. And with that revelation unsettling Varian, he's just like, anyway, bye. Again, bolts back off into the forest, plunged back into the hunt. And as they are pressed deeper and deeper into the night, Varian follows the faint trail left by the Worgen, and eventually he begins to understand the rhythm that began to form between them. And somewhere between, and as this chase intensifies, Varian's instincts led him through one outcropping through another, and eventually he begins to realize that a different route will lead him to outpacing Genn. As he anticipates the lands rising and falling, he catches the scent of a boar up ahead, and with this he rushes into this hidden dense brush. And when he finally breaks through the cover, his presence spooks this boar towards Genn's path, and he curses as he's like, damn, I didn't mean for it to be there. And just as he goes to continue chasing, a young Worgen intercepts this boar, but the boar literally just says yeet, and with its powerful tusks throws that entire Worgen to the side. He said, get on out of here, big boy. This is a grown man's game, young one. As Varian lines up his bow and he fires, the first arrow strikes this boar in the shoulder, and it flees wounded but furious. And before he could continue to pursue, another creature shows up when an enormous black bear erupts out of the opposing thicket, the wind blowing in the opposite direction, hiding its scent, catching everyone off guard. And as the creature rears up, towering over this young Worgen, it roars challenge as Varian looses a second arrow directly into the creature's chest, the shaft biting deep, but it's a bear, so it's essentially nature's fucking tank. So it doesn't do too much. Probably need like a bazillion fucking arrows to get the bear down.
I don't know, man. You're killing bears at level 10 and done more up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. That is fair. But as this bear then swipes aside this youth with a single massive blow, Genn Greymane hurls himself between the fallen Worgen and the bear, howling another challenge at it. As two others begin dragging this wounded Worgen off to safety, Genn leaps in to meet the beast's claws head on. And Varian doesn't hesitate as well. He drops his bow, draws his knife, and charges in forward, a human answering the beast's challenge with the same fury of another, Logosh. As he leaps onto the bear's back, he begins driving the blade into its neck until the entire blade snaps, lodging it deep into the shoulder of the creature, the bear rearing, nearly flinging him off while it snarls, again lunging forward as their eyes between Varian and Genn briefly meet in that chaos, and in that moment, Varian understood that Genn was doing this to create an opening for him. As Varian seizes on the moment with brutal precision that he had learned in the arenas, he drives the broken knife into the softest part of this bear's neck. As the blade sank all the way past the hilt, the bear letting out a deafening pained roar, thrashing both kings loose, staggering as blood pours from its neck. When from behind, Genn dives on the creature, delivering the final blow as he rips the throat out entirely with his claws and teeth, as the bear then collapses to the floor, lifeless. And Varian and Genn face one another, both smeared with blood, and Varian just says, "A clean killing blow," and Genn responds that it was merely finishing your work, that the kill is yours and this hunt is yours. As Varian says, "No, I was hunting a boar." Genn lets out a soft chuckle and he says, "A man who hunts a boar and brings down a bear should be acclaimed." And then he lifts his head and lets out this long, resonant howl, and one by one, all of the other Worgens join in, their voices echoing through this forest in a tribute not to the fallen beast, but to the king of Stormwind, to the ferocious wolf, to Logosh. And as the howls die down, Genn turns to speak to Varian, but he does the Batman thing where he's just gone. "I have to go to the Batcave. Justice!
Does the wolf respect the
We're
wolf
Gotham.
now?
I guess we'll see, shall we? Because unfortunately, as cool as that is, we got some other problems. As for 2 long days...
Hey, you know how you're always telling people to listen to Tides of Lore?
Of course, I am my own biggest fan.
Well, now it's even easier. We're on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Castbox, Spotify, and YouTube.
So I can tell them, wherever you listen, that they can just hit subscribe or follow.
Exactly. No matter where you are, Azeroth Stories will find you.
Silverwing outpost over in Ashenvale had heard nothing from anyone else in its neighboring positions, and that silence set the leading commander of this position, Sura Swift Arrow, a seasoned Sentinel commander, on the edge, because she's like, this doesn't make any sense. They begin finding some signs that a previous officer had been ambushed and slain, and as she ponders what's been going on, she acknowledges that basically all of the other experienced leaders had been slain, and that she is now the only one to be in command, and that 2 Hippogriff riders had been sent out to the nearest outpost for Commander Haldrissa, but none had returned, and she knows the truth, that Silverwing stands alone. And as she paces the outpost perimeter, her armor gleaming faintly in the dim light, her black lightsaber prowling beside her, above a suit-colored owl named Hooty Hoo. I didn't even realize that's how that
Hooty
name was
Hoo?
pronounced. What a name. Hooty Hoo, brother. Hooty Hoo. It's spelled Hutiihu. Hooty Hoo. I think when I was reading it before, it was like Hooty Hoo, but it's definitely Hooty Hoo.
Oh, like the sound when your BG pops.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Hooty hoo. Swoops down, perches on her arm, and she's like, "What is it?" As this owl then turns its head to the forest, and this figure emerges from this mist, and as she recognizes, oh, it's Elania Moonblaze, a scout and supply officer. So she's like, "What is up, gang?" This dark-haired, corseted, almost rogue-appearing night elf, carrying herself more like a pirate queen than a sentinel. And she's like, "Did you miss me?" And she's like, yeah, enough of that. What did you see out there?" She's like, "More like what I didn't see out there. The mist is so thick that you can't see a few feet in front of you. If it stayed put, it would work to our advantage. Unfortunately, it's moving towards us." And she's like, "Ooh, that's not good." She's like, "You don't even know the half of it." Because the truth is, there's this other problem, that the further I got into this mist, it sounded like a buzzing, like a swarm of wasps, and beneath that, the stench of burning oil. And they both know what that means. Mind goblins. As they shrug it off, they're just like, we can handle Mind Goblin. And she's like, what's a Mind Goblin? Oh, fuck, I can't believe we ran that joke that far. Anyway, she's like, we can handle a few goblins, but be careful what you say, because, they're not alone. And she's like, yeah, and a bunch of the scouts that I had ventured with did not return. She's like, ugh. So there's definitely traps being set. She's like, all right, everyone get ready. Archers ready. Lances onto mounts. First lines form up. Everyone get ready. And as they take their positions with this practice grace, these archers lining the walls, bows drawn and ready, lances on armored knight sabers forming a second rank, lances angled to the sky as these foot soldiers kneel beside them, glaives poised for a deadly launch, and behind that these massive glaive throwers, these siege weapons that just fire essentially sentinel glaives through the air, where they come crashing down on the enemy, cranked and primed, as the buzzing intensifies, joined by this eerie grinding from within the mist, and then silence. In this silence, it is completely shattered, as the sound of cracking just begins overwhelming the sound of the air, and they don't quite know what it is until they look up and they see one of these massive trees on the tree line in front of them begin tilting over right towards the Sentinel outpost. As it comes crashing down, they begin seeing even more and more of these trees toppling towards them, and that's when she realizes exactly what's going on as they crash directly on top of the outpost, shattering the ranks of the Sentinels and just spreading absolute chaos amongst all of them. Then, of course, that is when the arrows begin to pour in. That is when the orcs with axes begin to pour into the outpost, slaughtering all of the Sentinels in their discoordination. Sura doing her best to rush to her comrade's sides. Anyone that's been injured as these trees have come toppling down, as even more continue to come toppling down, she tries to get her comrade up, asking if she can move, and this other sentinel responding that her left arm is wrecked but that she'll live. As this battle continues to rage on, one figure becomes apparent out of all of them, ripping through the crowd with a violent, determined ferocity, wielding a massive two-handed axe that screams as it whistles through the air as Garrosh Hellscream makes his appearance. Garrosh Hellscream finding the Sentinel leader's gaze as he says, "Good, I want a fair battle," and he walks towards her with a contemptuous confidence, and just as they're about to begin fighting with each other, a massive night saber leaps in between them as Ileana screams for Sura to just run, that this battle was already lost, that they needed to regroup with Haldrissa and they needed to get reinforcements. And as this night saber begins battling with Garrosh, it's doing all it can to buy them time. Sura grabs Ileana and the two of them agree that it is time to run, that this battle is already lost, that the Horde has been preparing for this for a long time and that they would need aid. And as Garrosh's axe begins to wail behind them, the wounded cat giving out one final roar, this outpost had become a slaughterhouse, severed limbs and glaives littering the ground, orcs surging through the wreckage like a rising horde. As Ileana and Sura join remnants of the defenders near the archers, they're intercepted by a tattooed one-eyed orc veteran who just says that I'll make this quick. It's Briln! Welcome back, Briln. He says, I'll make this quick because you don't want to be here when he unleashes them. As Sura begins fighting him desperately with an injured leg, arrows struck the ground between them. As the orc is forced back, the Sentinels drag her towards the regrouping line, just as more of these shredders resume their rampage, tearing through these burning structures, dropping more trees, and this rampage just continues to reek throughout Silverwing. And then comes the final blow, as this monstrous roar from the east heralds a new assault, as a massive boulder, each the size of a house, 6 projectiles, come crashing into Silverwing with terrifying precision, absolutely decimating any of the fortifications and pulverizing any of their remaining glaive throwers as stone fragments rain from the sky like shrapnel. And Ileana just says to all of the remaining Sentinels that we have to retreat, that we have to fall back, cross the river, retreat to Commander Haldrissa. And under the cover of their remaining archers, the battered survivors abandoned Silverwing. They expected the orcs to pursue, but without wolf riders, none could keep pace as the Sentinels pushed west, exhausted, bleeding, but alive. And as Surud casts one last look over her shoulder, black smoke rises over the forest canopy as this goblin mist had thinned, revealing nothing but a smoldering ruin of where Silverwing once stood. And she thought the impossible has happened. Silverwing has fallen. Where amid the chaos and the ruins of Silverwing, you have Garrosh Hellscream standing atop the shattered outpost, Gorehowl dripping red with blood as the officers Brilled among them gather up, and Garrosh declares that Silverwing is ours, satisfaction in every word as the Horde begins to rise into a thunderous cry like a storm shaking through the trees. Garrosh, Garrosh, Garrosh. As Brilln smirks, he says that the survivors will tell the tale, the alliance will come, and they'll want blood. As Garrosh grins at him, he raises Gorehowl high, and its wailing scream fills the air. He says, good. Let them send 1,000 fighters, 10,000. Let them send all of their warriors. As he surveys the smoking wreckage, he just says, it will only mean more of them will die.
He is pretty badass. He can't, you got to give it to him.
Oh, yeah. This book has done more for me for Garrosh than anything has. Because at the very least, like, the other books, they're like, yeah, you showed me the incompetent asshole, but, like, show me the military genius. Show me the tactician. Show me the guy, the warrior. Show me essentially the redeeming aspects, reasons to like Garrosh instead of just the reasons to dislike him. So, yeah, he's pretty badass.
Show me the war criminal.
Show me the war criminal. Show me the guy that does not have any self-awareness. But yes, the morning arrives of Tyrande's departure, and this solemn quiet has settled over Darnassus. The high priest is standing alongside Chandris. The two of them begin their last preparations for their expedition southward to Ashenvale, where the balance between peace and war is trembling on a knife's edge as the reports of the Horde activities has reached them as well, accompanied by even darker whispers and disturbances in the forest that even Elun's divine night seemingly could not fully reveal. And as this unease washes over, Tyrande is ever resolute, ever confident that faith will get her through this. And as the final hour approached, Malfurion's storm rage enters the chamber, saying that, like, it should have been me to lead this expedition, not you. Like, I've already taken enough breaks. I promise I can handle it. She's like, nah, Elun showed me the path. It should be me out there, not you. And he's just like, all right, well, best of luck out there, big dog. No, but they have a somber goodbye as Tyrande's attendants arrive with her ceremonial armor and her moon-forged silver glaive.
You're gonna hit like a wet noodle without your armor on. I only take my armor off when I'm like fighting noobs, in duels. That's the only time I take.
I guess that's what she thinks. But yes, as the preparations are nearly complete, General Chandris stands before her one last time, saluting sharply, and she completely hides any of the emotions that would have come to the surface. As to her, Tyrande is more than a leader. She's her family, her mentor, her guiding star, her mother. And yet, through all of this, her warrior instincts are whispering of a danger, that something is walking in the forests of Ashenvale that they do not understand. But she promised vengeance upon those responsible for the death of her sentinels, and she will be damned if she doesn't get it. So, and as Tyrande pauses before her departure to ask him about the murders that had shaken Darnassus, Malfurion expression hardened as he says that Maiev is beginning to accuse the Worgen, declaring them responsible for the killings, but her bitterness had long been brewing for them, and it would not surprise me if they did or did not do it, Malfurion admits. And Tyrande's like, all right, good to know. So she departs, and Malfurion then turns his attention to the investigation, joined quietly by Jarod Shadowsong, as they look into this corruption that is seeping deeper and deeper into the city's heart. Jarod begins to ponder, perhaps Maiev is a bit too accusatory of the Worgen. Perhaps she's not trying to look at this all angles. Maybe she's letting bias get in the way. I don't know. Who would have thought that perhaps Maiev, the person that chased Illidan to the edges of the earth and never let him try and redeem himself, would do that? I don't know. I guess Jarod wouldn't know too much about that, but Malfurion and Tyrande would. But he leads Malfurion off into the forest where the Gilnean Worgen had once saved his life, and this forest is thick with the scent of silence as Jarod enters the glade, the smell of musk and damp earth under him telling him that they were not alone, as this low growl ripples through the trees, and it says Night Elf. As Jarod turns to find the Worgen watching him from the shadows, its eyes gleaming amber underneath, and Jarod recognizes him as the same one as that he had met before when they had gone to speak with the Worgen, and the creature sniffs the air, testing his scent for deception. Before more of these Gilnean packs gather, restless and distrustful, from the shadows steps Edrig. And he's just like, hey man, yeah, I recognize you as the guy that definitely pulled me from that trap. I just, I wanted to come here maybe to get a little one-on-one time with my sister not being a brat over here. And Edric's like, you shouldn't have come back here. Stepping close enough for Jarod to feel the heat of his breath as he stands over him. Jarod meeting his gaze unflinchingly. He's just like, hey man, like, I'm not here to fight. I just want to ask a few questions. And he's like, then ask your questions and be gone. And he can feel the tension that despite them having somewhat of a amicable relationship, that the tensions between the Night Elves and the Worgens, and specifically the Worgens and the Warden, are pretty high at the moment. The tension between them gives way to a revelation that the Worgen had not been the hunters, that they had only been victims themselves. As Edred lets out this guttural tone carried by sorrow, barely restraining his rage, he reveals that even one of their own, a female, had recently been murdered in the same gruesome fashion as the highborn mages in Darnassus, and that her heart had been torn apart by this cruel enchantment, a magical trap designed not merely to kill but to inflict agony before doing so. As Jarod listens to this in horror, his mind begins piecing together a darker pattern than just coincidence, that these killings were no act of just savage fury, that these were engineered, crafted with purpose, and even the method of death was precise. And this growing sense of this unseen puppeteer pulling strings grows undeniable between the two of them. As the conversation nears its end, Edrig's patience thins, as he's like, I think I've already said too much. There's no more I can tell you. And he 180s and gets out of there. And the rest of the Worgen, they do the same. But yet, as he vanishes into the mist, Egrid turns back, meeting Jared's eyes with a surprising gesture of trust, and he says that my name is Edrig. And with that, he says, I trust you with that, on the assumption that you'll keep it to yourself. And with that, it was this oath of confidence between two soldiers on questionably opposing sides of this growing war, as Jarod bows his head slightly, understanding the weight of that admission, and he says, of course. As they melt back into the trees, silence once again consumes the clearing, and now he's beginning to piece together this web of killings that is stretching across the entire region from multiple races, linking the Highborn and Worgen alike. Whatever force orchestrating this horror was no mere killer. It was a mind that understood a history of resentment and the fragile threads that lead to peace. And he's just like, well, back to the investigation. Time to uncover before more lives are taken. When a dawn breaks over Ashenvale from the night before, as Haldrissa is stirred from her restless sleep to the thundering sounds of hooves and ragged breaths of her returning scouts, their expressions telling her the truth that words could not, that Silverwing had fallen. And she begins to ponder. She's like, something more than orcish steel was definitely at work here. Like, even if they had taken Silverwing, it would have taken more than this, that they are definitely playing a new game. And as the bloodied survivors of Silverwing arrive, including Sura, the acting commander, dismounting stiffly, her voice cracking as she delivers her report, that the Horde assault was a brutal and calculated conflict, from their volleys raining death before the Sentinels could even regroup, the orcs moving with terrifying precision, and their coordination was unlike anything that the Night Elves had seen even since the Third War. And then she reveals the worst revelation of them all, that Garrosh Hellscream himself had been leading the charge. As Haldrissa's heart sank like a stone, that this was no border raid, that it confirms her theory. War has arrived to Ashenvale. And in the moment Sura's report ended, Danae, Haldrissa's fiery second-in-command, calls for retribution, saying, we should ride now. We waited too long last time. We should ride now. And the other younger Sentinels begin rallying behind her cry, mixing their fury into their reason as they want vengeance, to reclaim Silverwing or to die trying.
But Haldrissa sees through the heat of this youth, and she recognizes the precision of Garrosh's strikes for what they are. That's bait. That the war chief wants them to come charging blindly to bleed themselves against his waiting army, and refusing to give him any satisfaction, Haldrissa raises her hand for silence, saying, "We fall back. We cross the river and make our stand there. Let them come to us if they dare." And her command is met with a stunned silence, followed by some murmurs of dissent, but even the most vengeful among them knew better than to challenge her outright, that it was not cowardice, it was survival. Haldrissa was choosing her battlefield with care, and on the western bank of a narrow river, she positions her forces where the trees thin, granting her archers a clear field of fire, that the terrain would force the Horde to expose themselves during any crossing, and this advantage was something that the Night Elves could not afford to waste. As these Sentinels dug in, fortified and waiting, they built makeshift barricades, strung traps throughout the undergrowth, and lit only the faintest lamps. But as days turned to nights and back again, broken by the thud of distant drums that never grew closer, runners were dispatched to the other outposts, forming a tenuous chain of communication along the river's curve, but no attack came. The stillness just continued to weigh on them. Silence, as Haldrissa realized that this was worse than battle, the prelude to something unseen. And her second in command is really not having it. She is like, "I am growing more and restless by the hour. I'm losing my mind waiting. Please let me go and scout the east and learn why Garrosh's army has not at least pressed forward." And after these many days, Haldrissa's like, "Fine, you can go, but you got to move on to the cover of moonlight. You got to be very quiet." And 2 days later, they return, their faces pale, their eyes wide with disbelief. As Danae falls to one knee before her commander, struggling for words, she says that they had seen the full might of the Horde assembled beyond the ridgeline. Rows and rows of orcs in heavy plate, wolves painted in the mud, Taran's shamans chanting to their ancestors, troll witch doctors shaking bone charms beneath burning torches, that the ground itself trembled beneath them, yet none advanced, that the Horde was waiting. And as this report spreads through the camp like wildfire, the Sentinels begin whispering in disbelief and dread that there was some command, some ritual, perhaps a weapon yet unseen, that when it arrived in Ashenvale, it would all burn anew. Where back in Darnassus, Malfurion, left to govern after Tyrande's absence, feels the presence of Teldrassil unraveling beneath him. As Malfurion meets up with Mordant Evanshade, the leader of the Highborns and an archmage, who urges his followers to remain calm on the threshold of the Highborns' quarters. The night air shimmers with this residual arcane energy from the wards of the Highborn, old protections reignited out of fear. And their meeting would stretch on for hours, words circling like tired birds as Malfurion speaks of her strength and unity, of Elun's will. But Mordant would continue to counter that there had been centuries of resentment and that the wounds of the exiles still burn raw despite them returning to Kaldorei society. And as Malfurion turns to leave, Maiev Shadowsong appears from the dark, her presence sharp as a blade and her eyes burning with a cold purpose, as she just says that I seek answers from the Highborn to clear my mind. As Malfurion cautions her, warning her that provocation would only deepen the rift at this moment, Maev's faint, humorless smile offers no reassurance, saying that, "You know me, Archdruid. I do nothing without reason." And then, like mist under the moonlight, she was gone. Her shadow vanished among the trees, and Malfurion feels the weight of guilt press heavier of where Maiev walked, peace seldom would follow. As he's walking this moonlit canopy in the heart of Darnassus, nature whispering all around him, these trees restless, their roots carrying tremors of unease, as they complained of the Highborn's arcane residue, the spells lingering in places forbidden to them, he knelt and placed a hand upon the soil, whispering words of calmness to the forest itself. Yet even as he soothed the land and the trees, he could feel it, threads of magic woven where none should exist. As he begins pondering, he's like, someone's definitely been working on secret enchantments, but I don't know who. I mean, my first guess would be that Varden guy, shit stayed, but who knows? Who knows? And as this silence is broken by two sentinels approaching him, their armor slicked with rain and faces grim, they say, another murder Archdruid. And Malfurion's blood runs cold. 6 hearts torn from their chest by these invisible claws. He orders them to guide him there at once, that the word had already been sent to Maiev and the warden, And they go deeper and deeper into the forest. And as they do, the air became heavier and heavier, the leaves whispering warnings, their trembling voices urgent and afraid. Archdruid slowing as he's listening to them, he raises his hand, the very earth pulsing with a coiled magic as a snare waiting to spring strikes. He tries shouting too late, where he says, "Get back, there's..." And as that happens, the world erupted in an unseen fire. One instant, the grove was silent. The next, it filled with the screams as raw, formless magic detonated all around them, searing through the flesh and bark alike. No light, no color, just pain. The explosion was silent yet deafening. The agony would strip the air from their lungs, the strength from their limbs. The Archdruid staggering forward, every breath a lash of flame, his body feeling like this invisible sorcery was burning him from the inside out, tearing his spirit from his body. And through the sheer will, Malfurion forces himself to go forward, staggering through the haze of the pain. This invisible fire licks at his veins as his vision is fractured into shards of green and black. The trees pleaded him to stop whatever was causing this. Their voices faint through the ringing in his ears, but he presses on, driven by instinct and by the whisper of the forest in his ear. And then came the voice, twisted, hateful, and near enough to feel its venom, saying, "Why do you not just die already?" Before a surging pain strikes as he is struck over the head and knocked unconscious, as all of Darnassus turns to darkness in front of him. And that's where, far from Darnassus' heart, amongst the fading outskirts, you have Genn Greymane, standing in a grim silence, all of his people around them, dismantling what little remained of their encampment, that the Gilneans were not leaving, that they were not driven out by decree, but by cold indifference. The Kaldorai's courtesy had only curdled into suspicion, and now every glance weighed with discomfort from every word. And as this camp dwindles to silence, Genn's thoughts turn to Varian Wrynn. The sting of the High King's absence had not dulled. After the hunt, he had thought that they had really, built something together. They thought they were starting to work on something, but Varian's sudden departure had shown him that to the world, the Worgens were just beasts. As the wind shifts, Genn turns and he sees the figure that I guess he was hoping to see, but was still not quite expecting, as standing before him unarmed is King Varian Wrynn. And Varian looks changed, not in stature but in spirit, as he carries this weight of revelation, and his posture is steady but haunted. He looks like a man who had already walked through his own storm and found its heart. And Genn breaks the silence first in fury, and he's just like, "You walked away, like we honored you as like our own family, and you vanished. And I asked after you, but the Malfurion just said that you didn't want to talk right now." And Varian doesn't flinch, but he's like, I didn't want to talk right then, but I have found my purpose in that time, and I came here because I actually need your help. And the words stun Genn, because he's like, Varian, the Lion of Stormwind, Slayer of Onyxius, survivor of all these wars and crowns, is here to ask me for help, the king of nothing. As Genn studies him, he's like, "What could I help you with? Like, you have everything, power, kingdom, you have everything that I've lost." And Varian's request cuts through Genn's anger, saying, "Not everything." As he replies, Genn almost immediately realizes what he means. He's like, "I have more fury than I can bear, and I see that you guys have mastered yours, and I need you to teach me how." As Genn's eyes soften, he's like, "Yeah, I wondered how anyone who lived through all that you lived through could still come out whole." And in a rare moment of vulnerability, Varian admits that he didn't. So Genn's like, "Hey, I'll help you out, man. What helps us to control our rage is actually this magical trick that the Night Elves ended up teaching us, this ritual of balance. Shout out, Ballista Star Breeze. So I think you should do the ritual, and we'll see if that can help you out with your problems, big dog." And he's like, okay, I think that's a good idea." So they begin making their way through. He's telling him, he's like, "This is going to be a ritual of tranquility and balance and mastery over your fury." As the scene once again changes, they walk under this canopy to the east of silver leaves, and the Worgen's shadows slipping beside them in silence, none speaking, as they make their way closer and closer to this ritual ground. As these ancient oaks scarred with claw marks are all around them, centuries of struggle written in the wood. And Genn's just like, "This is where it happens. Everything that you see, like every scar that you see, was left by someone who was fighting with themselves and lost or won." And Varian brushes his hand across one of the barks, the wood feeling almost warm, seeming to almost pulse with this faint energy, remembering all of those who came before. And from the shadowed woods beyond the clearing comes these 3 druids. And they're just like, what up, man? We're here to do the ritual. And then they look at Varian and they're like, that's not a Worgen. And he's just like, why'd you even bring him here? He's like, he may not be a Worgen, but he needs anger management. So help him. And they're just like, okay, cool. Sounds good to me. So they bow their heads in silent accord. And as they begin, they start instructing him. So they're like, here, eat this leaf. So he eats the leaf. He's like, I was expecting it to be bitter, but it was actually surprisingly fresh and cool. And then he goes over to these 3 wells, each reflecting with the hues of silver, azure, and crimson. And they're like, you got to drink from each of these wells and remember all that you've lost. So he drinks from the well of balance and the well of fury. And lastly, he drinks from the well of tranquility. And with that, even them, they're like, dang, he's doing all 3 at once. And he's like, what can I say? I can handle my drink.
Well, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah. He's like, sir, they usually only have you do 1 at a time. And he's like, I need another. Get me another well. But yes, when the last drop touches his tongues, the druids then step back, their work done. Genn gestures for Varian to sit within a circle as these other Worgen gathered inward, forming a living ring of fur and fang. And Genn's just like, close your eyes. The waters will guide you, but this fight is yours alone. Look inward. Find the moments that shaped you, your triumphs, your failings. Relive them. Learn why you are who you are. And in that moment, he listens. The world falls away, and only the rhythm of his heartbeat remains, echoing like a drum. Where he finds himself in the sunlight, the marbled courtyards of Stormwind stretching out before him, where bright and alive, his father, King Wrynn, stands next to him, his hand resting warmly on his shoulder as he laughs as a young boy in a sound that he hadn't heard from himself in decades as he fumbles forward with a wooden sword, his father's patient voice correcting his stance, the smell of steel and roses mingling with the summer air, and for the first time in years he remembers peace. And as the sunlight dims, the laughter turns hollow. In an instant, that memory fades, fracturing into horror. As he turns to speak to his father once again, his dad falls before him, Garona's dagger glinting in the red light, blood-stained. As he falls to the marble floor, Varian screaming as he lunges forward, but the assassin vanishing into smoke. All that he sees is his father's lifeless eyes staring back as this vision once again shifts to the fall of Stormwind, the flames devouring its spires and the chaos of everything that he had known being destroyed. As he reaches for his people, his kingdom, the dream dissolves and burns to ash. Pain surges through him, and yet amongst this agony, a fragment of what sunlight still lingered, a memory of what refused to die. It was his spark of tranquility returning. And where that fire faded, it was replaced by light, soft, golden, and familiar. Tiffin, who stood before him, radiant, smiling, her eyes full of patience that he had nearly forgotten. As she reaches out to him and brushes his cheek, the rage in him faltering. She says that you were always more than your fury. She whispers in his ear, remember that. As her laughter fills him, healing the cracks of the years that had turned him rigid. For a moment, he felt whole again, but his warmth twisted, his memory turned, and he sees the riot, the stones, his wife fallen to the ground as cries of betrayal, her collapsed body spilling blood across the ground, and Varian falling to his knees, the grief of that moment renewed and crushing. And this was the moment that he had done his best to bury the deepest, and now it rose up to claim him, that this pain was unbearable. As Varian refuses to lose her again, the vision of Tiffin's death had torn old wounds open, but now standing within his storm of memory, he finally saw her truth, that her legacy was not one of sorrow. It was one of compassion, forgiveness, the will to rebuild. That she had been his balance. He had been the anchor in the storm, and her voice would guide them through it like the sunlight breaking through the clouds. And in that moment, peace returned, balance restored, and through the mist comes another figure, Anduin, his heir, his greatest failure. Varian sees every moment of anger, every harsh word, every decision driven by fear rather than faith. And thinks about the last time that they had spoken, how his anger had driven Anduin away, and the pain that followed was not rage this time, but regret, pure and sharp. As Varian faces his son's image, not as a king, but as a father, the fire within him roared, fed by years of loss and pride and fear, but now he did not let it consume him, and in this moment, he seizes it, he contains it, and he breaks it, like a beast brought to heel. His fury was no longer chaos. It was a weapon to be forged by will, not an inferno that ruled him. It was a shift deep in his spirit, a transformation that marked the end of his final trial and his mastery of his fury. Then came the voices, whispering at first, but blending into a chorus. His father's steady wisdom, Tiffin's warm voice, Anduin's forgiveness, and then one more vast and ancient as it rolls through his soul like a thunder on the horizon. Logush.
Our courage will not wane.
The wolf god, the primal spirit of tenacity and war. As Lo rises from within him, the spectral wolf of a silver flame, its howl shaking the edges of this dreamscape, reverberating through the clear beyond Varian's body bathed in light, and the strength of this ancient flowing through him. He opens his eyes. As he awakes, he rises to his feet standing, and around him the druids and Worgen stare in awe that the circle had broken, that the rite was complete, and Genn even took an involuntary step back as his fur bristles, not by fear but from reverence, as he whispers, Goldrin. And he tells him, Logush, his spirit surrounds you. And they all lower their heads, and for a heartbeat, even the night itself seems to bow. This power coursing through Varian's veins, he feels feral and pure, yet no longer untamed. For the first time in years, he feels steady, no longer feeling like a man at war with himself. As he says that I've been reckless and driven by fear and loss, but I see it now. Azeroth needs us, all of us, Worgen and men alike. We are what we are because we must be strong enough to protect Azeroth. As these druids nod solemnly and the wolves bow their heads, Genn steps forward and then says, What would you have us do, my king? As Varian turns eastward, he stares off at the horizon where Ashenvale burns beneath Garrosh's vanish, and the wind stirs through the clearing as he says, The Horde marches, and so must we. So together we will follow our destiny. Together to Ashenvale. And that is where we're going to leave the story off for today.
Varian's pretty cool, man.
How are we feeling about Genn this episode?
It was okay. I mean, I have this preconceived notion of him because I know of his past. So I think I give him a hard time, but it was kind of cool in this episode.
Well, I just wanted to check in on that, see how you're still doing on that. Time to check in again. Any idea who is committing these murders?
Well, it sounds like it's a Worgen from the shadows. Like, you know how Worgen actually came from the shadows? It sounds like that.
Kind of. I guess that is a theory. I'm not entirely against it, but they use magic.
I don't know.
Anyway, well, we'll continue to check in with that. But yeah, that is all that we have for today's episode. If you guys did make it this far and you have been enjoying our content, please drop us a like, subscribe, a follow, a comment. As Tim said, we're calling you to action. We need those juicy comments. If you're on Spotify, 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. If you truly love our content, you can't get enough of it, and you want to support the channel, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/tidesoflore.
You can join for free. There's a free Patreon too.
And join for free. We got some stuff going on over there, like the Seaside Reply, where we're doing more in-depth comment stuff, and you can watch that for free. So, and we're just going to be trying to kind of keep that as our main hub for keeping you updated on any new or important news with us. So yeah, definitely go and join the Patreon for free, and we'll love to have you. So until next week, guys, really appreciate you being here, and we will see you then. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. Your guys' support truly means the world to us. If you're interested in hearing more, we have our full show on YouTube and Spotify, new episodes dropping every Tuesday. I also want to take this moment to give a special thank you to Fantasy Lo-Fi for providing the music for this episode. You can find them on YouTube at Fantasy Lo-Fi or on Spotify under Bits and Hits. Be sure to show them some love, as their music does truly bring this journey to life. Once again, thank you for joining us on Tides of Lore, and we will see you next week.